Buddy, hope you're having a great start to your Monday morning here. The Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios, is having an interesting little glitch today. We can't, for some reason, hear our good friend Chad Forrester, Chad the producer. We can see Chad the producer, but we can't hear Chad the producer, which is just very interesting. So we're trying to work through some of these technical issues as we go this morning, hoping that you are, again, off to a very good start. Joey Miller's chiming in this morning. He's like, morning, guys. You mean morning guy, Joey Miller, because, like I've mentioned, Chad can't actually hear you. I'm so disheveled, Chad, I haven't even thrown on my official sunglasses for the morning yet. Boosh. Now we've got that going. My future's so bright, they told me once I'd have to wear shades. Of course, that chick was lying. She was my kindergarten teacher, but it was what it was. This is a real fucking bummer, man, because we had a super duper funny show to bring to you. I'm kind of wondering, Chad, if in the interim time, you don't take a look down at that having issues button at the bottom of our screen and see if we can't get in touch with somebody from StreamYard. As again, we're prepped up for a really fun show, and we're not going to let technical issues stop us. If you've listened to my program at all over the last 5 years, you understand that Dave is a master of wading through technical issues. When things fall apart, we just keep the show going. Oh, wait, Christy says she just heard Chad. So wait a second. Christy can hear Chad, but I can't hear Chad? Is that right?
Yes.
Well, this doesn't make it very fun for anybody, does it? Because if Christy can hear you, but I can't hear you, then you might have jokes that I wouldn't even know how to respond to. Chad, you know what? Let's do this, though, because it would still be funny. Give me your intro. Let's, for those that can hear it, let's let them hear this bad boy.
Good morning and welcome to the Halloween edition of the Sports Carnival, live from the Trauma Center studios, where the scariest thing for Packers fans this season is this season. Now here's your host, Dave Carney.
Oh, boy. Well, apparently it's awesome because I'm starting to see the folks come in here on Twitch, on YouTube. It's funny. And Chad, you had this thing lined up. We had a great conversation just last evening about these entire openings and the ways that we would come back in and out of the program. Listen, we're just getting our feet wet in this whole new technical age, the whole new era, if you will, of what the Sports Carnival is and what it will be. Rob Dog from Stoddard's like, nothing like a little bit of football. You get to what? Dude, we're in the middle of an ultimate collapse of the show, Rob Dog. Stay on topic. Rob Dog, this thing's about our dumpster fire, not the Chicago Bears, who, by the way, got just thoroughly waxed yesterday. It was a wild day in the National Football League. Now, I am hopeful because he does have the link to be able to join us in studio. I am hopeful that we will be hearing from Joe Daguanno, our Green and Gold Insider, coming up this morning at 8:30. I'm just curious at this particular moment in time as we're like troubleshooting this, whose fault this is. Is this my fault? Is this coming from my end? Because if it is, I'm not exactly sure what to do about that. What are we supposed to do about that, Chad? I'll let you tell the listeners, because maybe when you're doing that, I'll sort of figure it out.
Well, hopefully Dave doesn't have it on mute. If he has it on mute,
yeah, that's really
not. Can you hear me now, Dave?
Yeah, that's not helping either. No.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's too bad. It's too bad. But there you go, Rob Dog. And when should I send out those welcome cards to Packer fans now with them being 3-5? You got jokes coming up this morning, Rob Dog. You do. You've got jokes. Listen, the Green Bay Packers, subject to this morning's poll question at the Sports Carney on Twitter. We've also, Chad, got our first ever poll question up on the Sports Carnival group page on Facebook, which is one of the ways that people can hear you and me, but I can't hear you, which is interesting. So take this morning's poll question at the Sports Carney or at the Sports Carnival group page. I'm curious, at 3-5 and dropping 4 in a row, can the Packers make the playoffs? Can the Packers make the playoffs? There is still a statistical chance, 37% or 38% chance that Green Bay does make the postseason. But I'm curious to get from our listeners, our audience members, what they think. Are the Packers going to make the postseason? You can answer this question as mentioned on our Facebook group page and or the Twitter feed at the Sports Carney. The Packers never felt like they were in this game last night. And I know that they gave a little bit of punch early on. You know, Buffalo and Green Bay didn't separate real early. But at the same time, Chad, I never thought the Packers were actually going to win this football game. I never really did. You could see Aaron Rodgers, the dejection on his face when Christian Watson went out with the concussion. He's already dealing without Allen Lazard. He's already without Sammy Watkins. But this game last night, it just never felt like it was a game the Packers could win. It just really didn't. I know that for those that are Viking fans, seeing this pop up here, well, it was a big game for Minnesota. They get a win over Arizona, now move to 6-1 on the season. And I tell you what, the Vikings, for all the division leaders in the NFL, they get like the littlest press as far as it goes. Maybe because I'm here in Wisconsin, so we sort of block out everything from Minnesota. It just gets like put over into the corner like baby. Don't put baby in a corner. Yes, we're going to. Maybe that's why I don't see it as much. But the Minnesota Vikings playing really good football. And now, Chad, with that victory yesterday by Minnesota over Arizona and the loss by the Packers to the Bills, the Packers have a lot of work to do. So we'll see. Can they make the postseason? I don't know. That's what I want to hear from our audience. Yeah. Neil Duda's like, oh, you guys got tricks, huh? I was hoping we were going to get treated like us Vikings and the Suns fans have been treated recently. Yeah. Well, listen, the Suns, they're bouncing back a little bit, right? Phoenix started off a little shaky and they're bouncing back. You know who else is struggling right now? This is interesting. In the NBA, the Golden State Warriors. They lost to the Pistons last night. Cade Cunningham had himself a game. So did Sadiq Bey and a couple of other Piston players who we as Bucks fans get to watch tonight in Milwaukee on Bally Sports Plus, as the Pistons will be in Milwaukee to take on the 5-0 Milwaukee Bucks. This Bucks team, good God, if you're the rest of the NBA, say what you will about Kevin Durant's scoring prowess and how good Kyrie Irving is dribbling the basketball. LeBron's 800 and still playing like he's, Methuselah's younger cousin. This Milwaukee team, they get back Pat Connaughton, Joe Ingles, and then you go ahead and add in Chris Middleton, another all-star, to this roster and this rotation. Oh, man, it's going to be tough for anybody to really defeat this upcoming Milwaukee Bucks team. Now, they're not going to go 82-0. Obviously, they're going to lose games, but I really love where this team is at. I mean, I really do. They're in good shape. All right, we're going to go take our first break, our technical difficulties here on the Sports Carnival. At least you can hear Chad. Chad, you can entertain the folks when we come back with an intro. I'll pretend like I knew what you said and laugh right along. Stay tuned. What can I say? The Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi Street is not only my favorite bar in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin, it's my favorite restaurant in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin. Breakfast served 8 to noon, Saturday and Sundays, daily specials, incredible cocktails, and the best damn wait staff in the entire city. My buddy Matt knows how to treat you right, and that's why when you go to the Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi, you're always going to have a great time and a great meal with a great cocktail. So if you haven't been in a while, or perhaps you're just regular and you want to stop in again, make it a thing. I'm there every single week. How about you?
Coming to Fox this fall, it's the Bench Brothers.
Talking about that street clothes in Westbrook.
They're getting down on the bench. The Bench Brothers, brought to you by Big Dick's Hoagie Heaven. Remember, ladies, the first 6 inches is free. And by Don Francisco's. At Don Francisco's, if you're up all night, so are we.
Street clothes in Westbrook.
They're getting down on the bench.
Now back to the action live from the Trauma Center Studios. This is the Sports Carnival. You know what's scarier than Deshaun Watson at a massage parlor? Robert Kraft at a massage parlor. Here's your host, Dave Carney.
Oh, Chad, I'm so glad to be able to hear that. So we're back,
What
baby.
happened? You had it on mute, didn't you?
No, not this board on mute. So I went through an internal system check here on my Microsoft back end of my computer. And apparently there was something that got turned off inside. Listen, whatever. We figured it out. We're back on. Everything's good. Hashtag Dave's an idiot. I put that out there. I'm not going to sit around and fake the funk. I don't know what happened. It was inside my computer, but we figured it out, and we're good, baby. Like, we're good, baby, now. I could hear myself just fine. I just couldn't hear you, so I'm like, what do you mean I'm muted? Great to me.
So I make that thing, the Bench Brothers, and then, of course, last night the Lakers get their first win. So
Yeah.
I was helping everybody out. That was what that was about. So
Yeah, this last night, Laker win 121-110 over the Denver Nuggets, first win of the season. Lakers were the only winless team left, right? The Bucks, the only undefeated team left, and the Lakers were the only winless team left. And last night, listen, Russell Westbrook off the bench looked good. I didn't see the game, but I saw some highlights. LeBron James looked pretty good too. The Lakers are going to cobble together 35 wins this year, right? Like, they're going to beat some teams on occasions. I just am still on this particular tip. if the Lakers are going up against a good team, mostly, now last night, Joey Miller, a Denver Nuggets fan, we won't put this one into the category, but mostly when the Lakers are against a good team, man, I'm fading this team. I really am. I'm going to fade this team until they really and truly give me a reason not to. But last night for the Lakers, they hit their most threes, 13 threes for the season, 43% from three-point range, and shot their highest percentage of the season, 48% overall. So there you go. You make a street close thing, it still lands. It still lands.
I was a little bit surprised. I don't know about you, but I'm surprised that it was to Denver. Denver's a pretty solid team. I guess I don't know. I was a little bit shocked, but I did make this too. I don't know if you can see that.
I can see that. Yeah, baby.
Maybe it should be West bench. Actually, since he's been coming off the bench, he's playing better.
It makes a lot of sense, though, doesn't it? Because a guy like Russell Westbrook Jr. III, when he comes off the bench, he's able to do what it was that he has done basically his entire career, and that's dominate the ball, right?
Yeah.
Like, you dominate the ball. That's one of the reasons that we heard Kevin Durant didn't want to play with this cat back in the day because he wanted the ball. KD wanted the ball.
Sure.
James Harden just wanted to go to Magic City and eat some food, see some strippers, and they just couldn't make it work, right? But, yeah, off the bench, Russell, he should probably be better suited for this Laker team because there's just not enough basketballs on the court at the same time for LeBron and AD and Russell Westbrook Jr. III. So that was good. And by the way, well played. If you're just joining us right now, started off with something happened in the inside of my computer. I couldn't hear Chad. You guys could. I couldn't. I want to thank our friends at the Recovery Room. We're broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios. Coming up tonight, the Recovery Room's got bingo night on Monday night with adult trick or treat. How about that? Adult trick or treat. I am, Chad, possibly going to be putting together a loose costume. And when I say loose, it would be a Hawaiian shirt, a pair of aviator sunglasses, and perhaps a long-tipped cigarette. If you know who in history that I might be dressing up like, then congratulations. Those are bad. That's badass.
I'm going as Dave this year. Sunglasses at night, inside. It does not matter. Wear your sunglasses so your goofy eyes don't freak people out.
That's right. I've got crazy eyes, man. It looks like I'm something that the FDA would immediately classify as a Schedule 1. They're like, what's wrong with this guy?
Has anybody told you that? Or is this just some kind of, you're just self-conscious about something that you're a little insecure about your eyes? Because I never noticed it.
Yeah, I'm self-conscious and definitely insecure about it. And really, I wouldn't think about it at all if we didn't have the visual replay of this. If this was just a radio show, there wouldn't be an issue. I'd have no problems with it. And I'd do it for people live. No problem.
I was going to say, when we were doing the radio show, I don't ever remember you wearing sunglasses. So you apparently didn't care if I thought you looked goofy.
Well, I don't know that I was actually looking at so many different things at that time either, right? We used to have Rob Banks, our producer, and he was awesome. So he did a lot of the work for us. We had a news and a traffic department. I mean, it felt like, we were fucking anchormen, like in San Diego, a whale's vagina. It was awesome.
Except for AM radio.
Okay,
where broadcasters go to die. AM radio. Broadcasters go to die.
Like, what is this? This is a rating blip? What's 0.01 mean? Neil Duda's checking in here. Neil, I'm so excited to see your name pop up. He's like, Hunter S. Thompson, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Boosh. You got it.
Yeah.
If there was anybody I could pull off a balding, angry, overly intelligent, loudmouth dirtbag too, who likes to carry pistols, that would be me and Hunter S. Thompson. I see Marengo Mike is checking in here this morning, and Marengo Mike, we have not jumped on this just yet, but we better do that because tomorrow morning, 8:30, we'll have Matt Janis, UWL football head coach, joining the program. Matt joins us every single Tuesday. The UWL Eagles got a huge victory on Saturday over Oshkosh. Now, the Eagles, Chad, were up big in this game early, but needed to hold on for a 38-35 victory. West Salem's own Ryan Byrne sealed this thing with a 51-yard field goal with 51 seconds left. As I mentioned, the Eagles in 38-35. The 51-yard field goal, Chad, is our folks can see if they're watching us here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, on Twitter, or on LinkedIn. The 51-yard field goal tied the single-game school record sent by Dewey Stendel, I think, versus St. Norbert College back in 1969. This kid, Ryan Byrne, Chad, in high school for West Salem, the West Salem Panthers, was an incredible standout football player. He was the team's quarterback. I believe he also played some wide receiver. And on occasion, early in his career, he's a senior now, but early in his career for the Eagles, Chad, he did play some wide receiver as well. eventually the coaching staff said, this kid's got a golden boot, and we don't need this thing getting broken up by catching a pass route, a 15-yard, slant or something. We need to keep him out on the field. He is incredible. So he is the team's punter. He's their field goal kicker. Here's the thing about field goal kickers, Chad. It doesn't feel like you need to go to a big school or even really a Division I school to get a shot in the NFL. If you can kick, and you can kick in pressure situations, you've got a job waiting for you in the National Football League. I don't know that Ryan's got these designs, and I don't know if he's even entertained that as an option. But my God, this kid is accurate, and is he clutch? That's the other thing. Is he clutch? The answer is emphatically yes on both of these.
Well, you're doing something when you beat a guy named Dewey Stendel from Norbert College.
St. Norbert College. Yeah.
That's some nice pre-1900 words right there. That's old-timey. Yeah, no, you know what? The thing about field goal kickers, look at how many of them are coming from Europe now, right? Old soccer guys. The bottom line is, can you handle the pressure? Because it's not just about your leg, but it's the pressure situation, right? When you have the game on the line, and of course, obviously the snap has to be perfect and the hold has to be good and all those things, but you still have to put it through the uprights. That can be hard on a guy, right? As far as mental,
terrible because
side of it.
Listen, we talked about this last week as well. When the field goal kicker makes the field goal, the teammates, they love him. It makes all the sense in the world, right? When he doesn't make it, this guy's a pariah and basically somebody that nobody wants to talk to, especially if it's a team bus and you've got to drive hours back to from whence you came. Then nobody wants to talk to you. So in this particular case, yeah, clutch, you bet. Big time for this team, no question. And here's what I really love about this particular guy right here, Ryan Byrne, how much love he's getting around town. Because after he hits this 51-yard field goal, Chad, I'm starting to see all sorts of social media accounts blow up, Facebooks and Twitters and Instagram with we need to make this, day, like Ryan Byrne Day in lacrosse. Like this guy just saved, ostensibly in a lot of ways, he saved the Eagles season. Matt Janis told us last week, maybe it was the week before, the Eagles have to win out. They're still ranked number 7 in the country, which is great.
Right.
But in order to get into that postseason again, they're going to have to win out. Now, coming up next for the Eagles, they'll be back at home, and I believe they'll be back at home for their final 2 games. This upcoming Saturday, they'll be at home against River Falls, 1 p.m. at Roger Herring Stadium. Unfortunately, I won't be able to attend. Why, Chad? Because I'm going to be with Kyle Woody Morning Wood in Madison. We're going to watch the Badgers destroy the Maryland Terrapins. That's what
that should be fun.
It's going to be great.
Well, back on the Eagles just real quick, not to jump over to the Badgers, but back to the Eagles real quick. They're 7-1 now, right?
Yeah.
And they've won 5 in a row. Big. I mean, we're talking, this is huge for your area, huge for the team. Is this team coming up better than the team they just played? Because I have no idea.
Oshkosh is a very tough team. They're from a larger area than we are. Oshkosh is where there's also the Bucks G League team. The Herd plays in Oshkosh. So it's a bigger area, much like Whitewater, which is just outside of Milwaukee. Okay. For reference sake, these are large schools. So I'm not exactly sure where their season was at, but Oshkosh is a tough team. I think they were still ranked in the top 15, top 20 of the D3 poll. But for this UW team, this was an absolute must win. Now, coming back home against River Falls, I think that's going to be an easier spot for the Eagles than against Oshkosh. But what I like to see, and we'll talk to Matt about this tomorrow and get more of his X's and O's take on it, but what I like to see is a team like UWL face adversity, be on the road, be in a spot where they had been up early, Chad. They give up the lead and yet are still able to punch that victory ticket, which is something that I know that I see Green Bay Packer fans are hoping that we sort of speak into existence with respect to this Packers team. If you're just joining the show, the Packers last night on Sunday Night Football completely, I wouldn't even say shit the bed against the Buffalo Bills. They were just completely outclassed, outmatched, outmanned, outgunned from the very beginning. Josh Allen had an uncharacteristic 2 interceptions last night. Rodgers did throw one. It was a tip that went into the hands of the defenders. But even without Josh Allen playing his best football, and he still had 6 carries, I want to say 49 yards, even without him playing his best football, Chad, this Buffalo team versus this Packer team just looked like they were so much more superior. They felt like they were the absolute better team on every single drive in every single way, shape, or form. I just never truly felt like the Packers had a shot to win, which shouldn't be the case. I just didn't feel it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think obviously the running game was fairly decent. Aaron Jones had a huge game. It was over 100 plus yards. So that was good. But defensively, they made a lot of mistakes. Obviously, Clay Walker getting ejected, that was a stupid bonehead move. I don't know what he was thinking on the sidelines there when he hit. It appeared to be a coach, but apparently it was a practice squad tied in. And then Campbell left with a knee injury, so that's not good. Christian Watson went out with a concussion. I mean, these guys it's a triage over there in Green Bay, so that didn't help anything. I think that the positives were, that touchdown that Aaron Rodgers threw to Dobbs was an unbelievable throw, and perhaps
Great
not
catch.
only the catch of the Green Bay Packers season, but maybe the catch of the season, period. That was an amazing move, honestly. So, I mean, there were some positives. And Touré's his route that he ran was great because that was like a triple move, and he was kind of ad-libbing. So there were some positives there, but I agree with you. Buffalo clearly is just a better team. And I don't think Green Bay Packers should look at this loss like they looked at last week's loss because it was against the Commanders. The way I look at it is they beat the spread, right? It was 11 points and won by 10. So they kind of win.
Yes. Listen, this is something
look for positives.
We talked about last week. John Denton, our sports betting insider, said don't bet against the Packers, right? Because that spread was too large. Now, I considered it. I really did. I considered taking Buffalo minus the 10.5, 11 points, wherever it landed. But I couldn't because much like other Packer fans, first of all, it's really hard to root against your team like that with money on the line. And this is why I've said for many years, if you want to bet and put some action on a game, even if it's your favorite team, take the total. Take the total points. That way you're just rooting for a final score with the hope being that your team still comes out on top of that. But this Green Bay team, back to your triage point, this is a real problem. And it wasn't just the wide receivers, it's offensive line. Elton Jenkins out again. So the shuffling of the offensive line has been a real issue. And I know that we'll be talking to Joe Daguanno, our Green and Gold Insider, about that, Chad, coming up soon. The offensive line's a real issue. But at this particular moment in time, and this is why the poll question this morning for our audience is up on our Twitter feed. It's also now on our Facebook group page. Can the Packers make the postseason? The reason that we have to ask this now is because as opposed to other seasons in the past, this is, by the way, the 4-game losing streak for Aaron Rodgers, tied for, I think, the second longest losing streak in his career. The longest he ever had was 5 games. The last time the Packers were in a 4-game losing streak, I was here, and the Packers ran the table. Aaron said, relax, we're going to get back there, and we're going to do it. And you sort of felt that was true. This year, I don't believe that. And I'm taking an early look at this poll question, Chad. Can the Packers make the playoffs? And this is on our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney. 50% say no way. 28.6% are saying they're hopeful but doubtful. Only 21.4% so far are saying hell yes, which in the past would have been completely flipped.
So their next game is at Detroit. So they're on the road. Detroit lost yesterday to the Dolphins, which they were ahead in that game. And right now, after seeing what I saw last night, I am not 100% positive that the Green Bay Packers are better than the Lions. I think they can win the game, but I think it really depends on where their head's at. And of course, how their triage goes with all of these players that are injured or got ejected. And that's the other question is Walker going to get another 1-game suspension after this? I'm sure that's reviewed. So he possibly could be out. Campbell with his knee injury, I don't know how severe that is. So defensively, they're beat up. Obviously, they don't really have anybody to go to offensively, although I will have to say Romeo Doubs looks like he's trying to step up because he made 2 huge catches, obviously that touchdown catch, and then in the fourth quarter, I think he had a 26-yarder or something along those lines. It was a pretty decent catch as well, and seems to be like he's the guy stepping up. So I guess we'll see, but I don't think it's a given that they beat Detroit, especially when they're on the road.
Yeah, I don't think it's a given at this particular point in time. Now, the Detroit Lions yesterday lose in a very Lion-esque fashion. They were absolutely handling. They were handling the Miami Dolphins and end up falling 31-27. My fantasy team, which I haven't looked at, was really helped out, though, by Jalen Waddle having a big game. And even Raheem Mostert, who I've got in right now, had 14 carries and 64 yards. This Lions team is in a lot of different ways, I would say, betterly positioned than the Green Bay Packers right now. And the way I say this, or the reason that I say this, is simply because I feel like the Lions, and we touched on this last week, they've got an identity. We know what the Lions are trying to be right now. They're trying to be a smash-mouth football team that's going to run a lot of heavy play action based upon what their quarterback can do. Jared Goff is not without his talents. It's not that he is a top-end elite quarterback, but he was a former number 1 pick. He's been to a Super Bowl. He understands how to get things done. If the scheme's if the scheme is devised properly for Goff, he can be effective. But this Lions team has an identity behind Dan Campbell as their coach. And while the wins and losses may not be what Lions fans are looking for yet, I see that there is a pathway forward for Detroit. And to be frank, right now with this Packers team, I don't know what that pathway forward is, because it still feels like the Packers are really relying upon Aaron Charles Rodgers to be that guy, right? To be that guy to go out and do all of the things for him necessary in order to win football games. And not to say that Rodgers can't make throws, can't make plays, because you brought up a couple last night that looked great. But you watch Rodgers in the totality of the game now, Chad. You compare him just to Josh Allen because he's on the other side of the ball, not that they play against each other. Right. But don't you feel like Rodgers is sort of the second-tier quarterback now behind guys like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and some of the guys that we're seeing now, these younger cats who are really putting it together?
Well, yes and no. I mean, you can see glimpses of him looking older, but at the same time, you see glimpses of the old Aaron Rodgers, which I think is, kind of buoys your spirits if you're a Packers fan. Again, that throw to Dobbs was it was probably the catch of the year, possibly in the NFL, but it was an amazing throw as well. And it's one of those throws we used to say only Aaron Rodgers can make that throw. Well, that's not necessarily the case. And obviously you saw Josh Allen last night looking a little bit younger, forcing that ball in when they didn't need to. I don't know why he didn't throw both those balls away, because if he would have gotten any more yardage right there, he could have kicked a field goal and they would have won by, 3 more points or 6 more points, depending on how that turns out. So you see some of that, but I think the main problem with Aaron Rodgers, and I hate to back him up, is he doesn't have a lot of weapons. They are beat up. Clearly, like when they're running the 2-minute drill last night, they're not necessarily on the same page. So, I mean, there's some growing pains there. But again, the thing I would highlight is Aaron Jones had a huge game. And it's something that we talked about. Joe Daguanno talked about. They needed to go to the run game. They went to the run game. Unfortunately, they were too far behind to play that kind of football. They needed to play catch-up football, and you can't really run the ball when you're playing catch-up football down that many points.
No, you're right. And for what it's worth, Packer fans, 210 plus yards on the ground, right, is what the Packers were able to amass last night. Yeah. Aaron Jones was great. A.J. Dillon also had himself a couple of really, really good runs. But this I'm going to leave us with before we go to break, because I know we've got Joe Daguanno hanging around, and Joe's going to give us all of his thoughts and insight on yesterday's game. But I'll leave you with this from UW Wells Thomas. He's like, "Dear Green Bay Packers, let's go out and grab a wide receiver, a.k.a. Dave's awesome dog, Leo. Sincerely, Thomas." And yes, Thomas is right, because Chad, yesterday on TikTok at the Sports Carney, and I put it everywhere, I showed a video of Leo catching a ball in midair, and I'm like, dude, he plays shortstop and wide receiver. Go get this dog. He's a dogged defender, so he can play both sides of the ball. Right. And he's got great mouth-eye coordination. So I think Thomas is on to something. All right, we're going to take a quick break, say hi to some of our incredible supporters and friends here of the Sports Carnival. When we come back, your green and gold insider, Joe Daguanno, is going to join Chad and I live in the Trauma Center studios. Stick around.
Preferred Insurance is the official auto, home, business, flood, and life insurance agency of the Sports Carnival, serving folks in La Crosse and surrounding areas with licenses in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. As an independent insurance agency, Preferred Insurance is free to find the very best insurance for you, your family, or your business needs. Call my friends at Preferred Insurance today and set up a free consultation. Remember, working with an independent agency means Preferred Insurance works for you, with you, to find the best solutions at the best prices.
Now more than ever, if you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps an investment property, you need a full-time dedicated real estate agent who is up to date on all the latest trends and analysis and is ready to give you the kind of service that you deserve. That's why the official real estate agent and the official real estate partner of the Sports Carnival is Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate. Whether you're looking to buy or sell your first home, or perhaps you are a seasoned investor, call the official real estate agent partner of the Sports Carnival, Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate.
Broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios, this is the Sports Carnival. What's more frightening than losing 4 straight? How about losing your 5th in Detroit? Now here's your host, Dave Carney.
That would be scary. Yeah, exactly. That should be the new QB SFX if the Packers lose to the Lions. How do you rate your quarterback? By their sound effects. I'm Dave. This is Chad. This is the Sports Carnival. Neil Duda checking in. He says, watching with my 8-year-old son, Keaton, this morning, trying to get the younger generation on board. I love this thing. And Neil, I know that you're going to be driving around pretty soon and taking a new job, which means you can't watch as much. But download the Podbean app and stream the audio version of the Sports Carnival live every single Monday through Friday from 8 to 9. No longer do you just have to watch us, because as Joe Daguanno, our Green and Gold insider, could probably attest to, many people have become fond of my voice. Less than those amount of people have become fond of my face. So, Joe, now we're streaming on Podbean, which means they can simply listen to us. They don't have to watch us.
You know, when you said Dave and Chad, I'm like, that would have been a great name for like a 1960s beach band. It's like, ladies and gentlemen, Dave and Chad. And I just expected you guys to have the coif do and coming out and saying, you know, kind of like one of your songs could be like Beach Party in Green Bay, you know, that type of thing. I think it'd be good, man. I think it'd be good. How are we doing, boys?
We're doing great. Will you produce us like, I don't know, that movie, that Tom Hanks was in all those years ago? Will you be our guy? Will you be our Tom Hanks and take us to the top?
You want to be the Oneaters?
Yes.
I will put that together and make that happen, boys. Dave and Chad, I'm like, it's going to be like the remake of Dead Man's Curve with you guys from Jan and Dean and all of these different nice, cool duet Beach Boy types of scenarios for you two.
There was a Chad and Jeremy. I'm sure you remember that.
Yes.
Joe.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, of course.
So I am. Here's the thing. The Sports Carney is across the nation because the fans here in San Antonio have been outside of my hotel window all morning long, just chanting "Sports Carney, Sports Carney, Sports Carney."
I'm so excited to hear that we're reaching into San Antonio. As a matter of fact, I met somebody recently that came into lacrosse that's from San Antonio, so I'm hoping they're taking the show back with them, and that in the future, Joe, when you go, there will be a real and true Sports Carney, sort of a fan club or a P1 group outside of your hotel window. How long are you going to be in Texas for?
You know what? Heading back today. So got into town Friday night late. My lovely wife and I spent the weekend here and just heading back. I don't know if you guys have been, but it is absolutely beautiful. The Riverwalk here, it is one of the most fucking amazing places I've ever been in my life. So that Packer fans, if you're feeling a little out of sorts, go someplace. Get a life. Go do something else besides Green Bay Packer football. It does wonders. I will tell you that right now.
That's great. Great advice, actually.
Well, it really is. In San Antonio, birthplace of my grandmother, Virginia Harris, is a beautiful town. I'm going to make just a detour here. One of the guys that I thought would have been perfect in San Antonio, Joe, was Johnny Davis. Wisconsin Badger star Johnny Davis got drafted by Washington. You and I had talked about that a lot. I was hopeful that Johnny would go to San Antonio because it's a great place. It reminds me a lot of lacrosse, bigger, but that great Riverwalk. Really cool town, and the Spurs would have been just an incredible landing spot. Anthony Russo, Tony Russo's like, big old women in San Antonio, talking about Charles Barkley. Absolutely. Chuck's like, man, there's some big old women in San Antonio. Yeah. It's
okay. Terrible. That's terrible.
That's terrible.
Oh, Joe, listen, we're so glad that you're able to be with us, even in times which the Packers aren't performing great. You've been around for so many of the great times, but one of the things that you've been really cautious, and you've mentioned this for years with me on various platforms, one thing that you've been really cautious about is Packer fans not appreciating what they have been given with recent success because, Joe, you've mentioned the really, really dark times of the mid to late 70s and throughout the 1980s. As a Packer fan, Joe, I'm not suggesting we're even approaching those times because I love the brain trust. I think Gutekunst and Mark Murphy and these guys are really, really smart. They're going to figure it out. But right now, Joe, the Packers are in a bit of a funk. They've lost 4 games in a row. They're 3-5 on the season, as opposed to 2016 when Aaron Charles Rodgers said, relax, we're going to get to the postseason. We're going to run the table. And they did. This year, I don't believe that this Packers team is capable either by personnel or by scheme. Tell me where you land on that, and then we'll get into your thoughts about yesterday's game against Buffalo.
Yeah, it's a totally different vibe. It's 6 years ago. Rodgers was different. He still had a lot of offensive talent around him. I mean, so many things are different. I will tell you this, though. When I saw Matt LaFleur last night at halftime, I thought he was going to cry. I thought he literally looked like he was going to cry. And I said to myself, this team is right there of falling apart. And I know Buffalo was playing prevent. I know all of those things in the second half. But Green Bay came out and played a damn good second half of football. And so if Matt LaFleur was going to lose this team, it could have happened at halftime. And I don't think he has lost this team. So you look at running the table and right now, 3-5, you realistically have to go 7-2 the rest of the way to feel pretty good about the playoffs. That's going to be a tough stretch, boys. And so it's going to be interesting where this thing falls as far as where they go. But one interesting point about the leadership on this team and the leadership in the organization, because someone who I follow on Twitter last night caught him. He was at the game and had video of him with Mark Murphy after the game. And he was shaking Mark's hand, and he said to Mark, quote, it's on video, and I thought this was really interesting. He said, Mark, please go get a wide receiver. And Murphy's response, he didn't say no comment. He didn't say anything like that. He looked at him and he said, by Tuesday, and shook his head yes. So, you know what? We'll see. Mark Murphy doesn't pull the strings here, but this year, Aaron Rodgers, and I was listening to you guys before I got on, he hasn't thrown for more than 255 yards in a game. And no one can bitch about LaFleur's commitment to the running game last night. Jones and Dillon, 30 rushes, 197 yards. Jones on his own, 20 for 143. And so again, you can't take that away from LaFleur, but you need to have a complementary passing game. You need to have somebody to stretch the field. So look, I look at this team. I do think they make a move for a wide receiver. It's going to be tough to make the playoffs, but if this team can look somewhat decent over the next 9 games and start, because everyone says Rodgers is going to retire. I tell you right now, he's not turning down $100 million guaranteed over the next 2 years. He's not. And Aaron Rodgers has always said he wants to play till 40. Well, guess what, boys? Aaron Rodgers turns 40, not this year, not next year, but the year after that. So I think the original 3-year extension is going to be Rodgers. That'll be his farewell. I think he does it at 40. If Green Bay can go out and get a wide receiver, and I'm not talking about a washed up wide receiver, because look, if you're bringing somebody in for the title run this year, you're full of shit, because I just don't think there's going to be a title run. If you bring in DJ Moore or Pittman, someone on a rookie deal, and then you deal away some draft capital for that, I am A-okay with that. So is this team going to run the table? I don't see it. Is this 2016 all over again? I don't think so. But Chad, you said it. There are still some flashes with Aaron Rodgers, and I think one of the things Rodgers is going to have to do is start escaping the pocket again, because that's what was happening in the second half. Is he started creating plays and extending plays with his feet. And I think Aaron Rodgers at 38 is just going to have to man up and do it again. And so, listen, here's the thing about last night's game. You win the turnover battle, you win the time of possession, you win the first downs, you win the third down percentage, you win total yards, and you win rushing yards. If you would have told me that was the formula, does Green Bay win or lose, I would have said, sign me up, Green Bay wins. And so, again, I hats off to Buffalo. They played a hell of a game. I think they are one of the few teams for sure that can win the Super Bowl this year. But I think Matt LaFleur, I think that team, I think they manned up. I think they let their balls drop a little bit in the second half, and I think they might have saved what could have been a disastrous season in that second half last night.
It sounds like you're putting lipstick on a pig, but I agree with you, Joe. What are your thoughts on Romeo Doubs? Did he kind of have a breakthrough game last night, or is it just a one-off?
Romeo Doubs is no different than any other rookie Packer receiver over the last 10 years. If you look at Greg Jennings, Greg went through drops his rookie year. Devontae Adams, by his second year, Packer fans wanted him gone. Jordy Nelson, people don't remember this. Jordy Nelson could have had 200 yards receiving in that Super Bowl, but he dropped 4 easy catches that day. Aaron Rodgers could have easily had 400 yards passing against the Steelers. So James Jones, I literally, when I'm watching that Super Bowl against Pittsburgh, and in the second half, James Jones drops what probably was going to be a 76-yard touchdown. I almost threw little Charlie Daguanno off my lap at that point. I mean, that was the one time So look, Romeo Doubs is just like every other Packer rookie wide receiver over the last several years. And no one bitched about Devontae Adams. Now, Greg Jennings became what he did. Jordy Nelson, James Jones, all these iconic Packer receivers. That Dobbs catch, and Chad, you said it, hell of a throw, thrown only where the receiver can get it, but probably the catch of the year. I mean, that was a spectacular, and that's the type of thing when you get confidence and you start rolling. And everyone want to talk about Aaron Rodgers calling his wide receivers out. Aaron Rodgers is. I'm so fucking tired of the week of Aaron Rodgers because finally in the game last night, Aaron Rodgers' second half came to play and showed it. And here's the other thing, you guys, because the Packers defense, for all the talk they had, they fucking laid an egg. And when Green Bay goes out and starts capturing momentum, Joe Barry's defense, when they had a great drive, 80-yard drive, the Packers did in the first half with that touchdown pass to Dobbs, the Joe Barry defense can't answer. So the Packer offense showed up second half yesterday. Green Bay's defense just kept on talking and really didn't put their money where their mouth was.
So, Joe, it wasn't for me just the defense laid an egg, and Joe Barry's unit has definitely got something to answer for, and I'm sure this morning in team meetings they are doing that, if in fact they're doing that today, but it's penalties, and this goes back to coaching in a very generalized way. A long time ago, the Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders, now the Oakland, Los Angeles Raiders, because of a certain kind of institutional thing, were the most penalized team, and they kind of kept that mantle for years. I look at penalties a lot like coaching. The Kawhi Walker move, that was unacceptable, and Matt LaFleur said that right away. Like, what are you doing? You're hurting our team. In certain respects, I agree that the Packers, they can come out, they can play. Maybe Matt LaFleur hasn't lost the team, but there's something that just doesn't feel quite right about this particular group. And I'm not suggesting they can't win some games, but I don't see, Joe, the kind of connectivity, the kind of team buy-in that would really illustrate to me or to Packer fans that this is something that can be accomplished. And I'm just going to use a really salient example of another head coach we consider to be great, Andy Reid. When the Chiefs lost Tyreek Hill, and I was one of those people that thought that would doom them, because look at how good Tyreek's been for Miami. This guy he's lived up to everything. Well, Andy Reid and company didn't have a plan to replace one player. They had a plan to replace one of the most magnificent players with 4 or 5 other guys, and they do that. This is where I think Packer fans, Joe, and correct me if you think this is completely off target, but this is where Packer fans, I feel, are starting to take a little bit of a side glance at Matt LaFleur and saying, well, wait, what are you doing? Because if these other coaches, look at what Christian McCaffrey did yesterday for the 49ers. Threw a touchdown, caught a touchdown, and ran a touchdown. First time in 17 years. LaDainian Tomlinson was the last guy to do that. It's a second game with the team, okay? So there's a way that good coaches really get the best out of good players. And I just think that from a very general fan perspective, we are beginning to get to that point where it's like, look, Rodgers is still good. These receivers are probably not horrible. Why aren't they succeeding, Joe? Do you think that's a fair assessment of Matt LaFleur at this point? I realize his record's been great, and we can't take that away from him. But do you think that assessment's beginning to become a little bit fair?
Oh, 100%. And I'll go back to it. When I saw Melissa Stark, who I still think is one of the hottest women in sports, when I saw her interview LaFleur last night at halftime, I thought he was going to cry. And I thought at that point, I actually texted Kyle, and I'm like, you know what? I think LaFleur has lost this team because he looks like he's just going to start bawling there on Melissa Stark's bosom. And so, it looked like that. But that second half, there were some glimpses there. And yes, I think, and I've said this before, when you've got Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, when you have iconic, game-changing talent, and Mike McCarthy did this towards the end of his tenure. He really relied on, well, Rodgers is going to bail my sorry ass out. All right. I think LaFleur has probably gotten lazy. When he says in the offseason last year, 80% of our offense runs through Devontae Adams, that's not the offense anymore. That when you say that, you no longer are coaching your offense. You're relying on players. So I thought about this morning, and I want to ask the question of the both of you, and I want feedback here from your listeners and viewers. Who would you rather be right now a fan of? Who is in a better situation moving forward? I'm not talking about this year, but I'm talking about maybe the next 2 or 3 years. 4 iconic old quarterbacks who are still leading these franchises: Tampa Bay, Green Bay, Indy, or Denver.
Ooh.
I mean, right now, you look at Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers. Who would you rather be right now a fan of? If you're a fan of any 4 of those teams, and again, I'm not saying Green Bay's in a better position. I don't have the answer yet. But right now, I think Denver's going to be a one and done with Nathaniel Hackett. I think you look at the rent-a-quarterback way that Indy has been running the last 42 years. I mean, right. I don't see that a recipe for success. I don't think Tampa Bay has a lot of talent, and I think you're going to see some changes there. I think Green Bay's in the same boat. So who would you rather be right now, guys? Who has the best path over the next 3 years?
It's a tough question. I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. When you put it that way, I agree. But I'd rather stick with my 49ers, to be honest with you. after yesterday.
You know what? And Chad, let me ask you, what do you do with Trey Lance now? I mean, the 49ers are in the same boat that Green Bay was in with Jordan Love now, in my opinion. Right.
Well, I mean, I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo's the answer. I think Trey Lance comes back when he's healthy and he starts. But, you know what? We just ride what we have right now. But Christian McCaffrey yesterday obviously is a difference maker. And it shows you how much a trade can make a difference in a season. And I think that, you know, with the deadline looming tomorrow, I believe at noon, Green Bay needs to make a move here if they're going to make a move.
Yeah, you know, no doubt, 100%.
And Joe, I'll answer your question because I've become over these last 6 years a bigger and bigger Packer fan by the day, right? So I've drank the Kool-Aid. I'm all in, green and gold glasses. I'd much rather be a fan of the Packers. You mentioned the Indianapolis Colts debacle. Well, Sam Ehlinger lost to Taylor Heineke yesterday, 17-16 in his first game. Denver, yeah, they beat Jacksonville, but how good is Jacksonville? Nobody really knows. And what you mentioned about Tampa Bay, I don't think they're without talent. I think Tom Brady's he's done. It's going to be about time to be done. They've got a good defense and they've got playmakers. But from a very general perspective, I'm with you on the Packer fandom because I do believe the Packers get this thing figured out. Joe, we're up against it, man. As always, this has been a ton of fun. I see D Nutter checking in, though, and when Green Bay actually needed the running game to deliver on 4th and 2, they got dominated. He says Buffalo was disinterested. We've got a lot to unpack. This story is by no means over. And, Joe, we'll get you back on the show next Monday to keep this thing rolling. Thanks for everything, brother. It's always good seeing you.
Hey, 2 things real quick. I'm going to predict this. I think the Packers make the move for DJ Moore.
Okay.
I do. I think it's DJ Moore is who they make the move for. Secondly, DC, am I seeing you in Madtown this weekend for the tailgate?
You know it, baby.
All right, Chad, we're FaceTiming you, and we're doing shots. We're doing FaceTime shots at 9 a.m. in the morning, Madison time, brother.
Can't wait.
Great. That should be fun. Thanks, Joe.
Boys. See ya.
The official mortgage team of the Sports Carnival is the Midwest mortgage team of Land Home Financial, my good buddies Mike Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi. Listen, we all know the mortgage industry is in a bit of an upheaval right now, and that's why it's more important than ever to go to a couple of guys that you can trust, a local operation right here in La Crosse. That is the Midwest mortgage team. Again, Michael Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi of Land Home Financial. Don't make a mistake with your mortgage needs. Go to the official mortgage provider of the Sports Carnival, the Midwest mortgage team, Mike Garcia and Todd Vercruzzi.
Hey, it's time for koozies, hot tub, and jacuzzis in downtown La Crosse. Whether you're looking to relax after a hard day's work, or maybe you're up for a little soak and poke, we got you covered. That's right, when you're in the market for a hot tub or jacuzzi, all you have to do is call the Coos. 555-SOAK. That's 555-7625.
Soak and poke is a slang term for hot tub sex.
Please practice responsibly.
Back to the action live from the Trauma Center studios. This is the Sports Carnival. What's scarier than head coach Aaron Rodgers? How about welfare reform chief Brett Favre? Here's your host, Dave Carney.
Oh, my God. That's so great. The Soak and poke is a term for hot tub sex, and I love that. Todd Vercuzzi, hot tub and jacuzzis.
Having fun with Todd. Having fun with Todd. We know he has a good sense of humor, so I thought I'd throw it out there.
This is a great sense of humor for Todd Vercuzzi, and I'm just so glad that after 16 attempts, I was able to properly pronounce that man's name in an actual recorded commercial. Speaking of our good friends at the Midwest Mortgage Team, Mike Garcia, Todd Vercuzzi, give these guys a call if you are looking to buy or sell a home right now, because you need to figure out exactly what your exit or entry strategies are. And they are two of the sharpest guys in the industry. Kyle Cable, One Trust Real Estate. He's the official real estate partner of the program. Again, when you're thinking real estate, think of the official partners of this program. Tony Russo, he's checking in. Preferred Insurance. He and Brian Sandmeyer, downtown La Crosse. They're the official auto, home, business, life, and flood insurance partners of the program. And then, of course, our good buddy Joe over at Helping Hands Landscaping, Chad. He helps you pick up that dog poop. Your lawn work will be done, and your snow will be shoveled. So there you go. Thank you so much, friends. And, you know, we're bringing on new friends probably this week. We're going to be saying hi to a couple of new friends, which is very exciting.
I'm extremely excited. Joey Miller's checking in. Phillies or Astros tonight. That's right. Game 3 of the World Series tonight. It's all knotted up. I am going to go Phillies. I'm going to go Phillies because I'm pulling for the Phillies. And obviously the way they've kind of played this year, they split on the road and they dominate at home. So I hope that trend continues. I can't believe I'm actually pulling for the Phillies because when I started this thing out, I'm not a huge Bryce Harper fan. Obviously we lived in Vegas a long time. Bryce Harper is from Vegas. You know, I've heard some stories and know some people that know him and stuff. And he just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but I love the team. I love the Phillies' energy. I love the way they're playing. I love their lineup. I think that I have now become a Phillies fan.
Yeah, I'm not a Phillies fan by any stretch, but I am a fan of Bryce Harper, and I'm a fan of him in this respect. I got to call a couple of his games, and then a good friend of ours, Rob Mish, who Chad joined me on a number of occasions here in La Crosse to do some sports betting, some sports betting talk and to promote his new book. He wrote a great book about Bryce Harper called The Last Natural, and it was about Bryce Harper's season at the College of Southern Nevada. So Bryce Harper left high school at 16, got his GED at 16, and went and played in a big boy wood bat league. The College of Southern Nevada is in a wood bat league, and he crushed it. I think he hit 40 home runs at like 17 years old and lived up, Chad, and this is what's really interesting, lived up to all of the hype that he was given coming in to the majors, which baseball, I think unlike any other sport, basketball, football, hockey, baseball's the toughest one to actually make it in. It's the easiest to get drafted in, right? But it's the toughest one to actually make it in. How many times do you see a number one pick in Major League Baseball turn out to be really something special? There aren't all that many examples. Chris Bryant recently from Vegas, Bryce Harper recently from Vegas. So I like that story. And you know, I like the fact that people don't like Bryce Harper because I'm a contrarian. And so because they don't like Bryce Harper,
right,
I want him to win.
Well, I just like the other guys on the team as well. And I mean, it's not that I hate Bryce Harper. I don't know. He just rubs me the wrong way. I'm not a big fan of the headband and he's cocky.
Sure.
But you know what? If anybody deserves to be cocky, you're right. Because he has been in the forefront, out in the public eye for, almost his entire adult life, since he was 16, 17 years old. Two-time MVP, just won the National League MVP, NLCS MVP, possibly could win the World Series MVP with the World Series ring. And as you said, for a guy to be touted that long and to be able to sustain it for as long as he has, it's extremely impressive.
Yeah, it really is. And that's where you can land on the like him or not based upon his personality. A lot like Aaron Rodgers, right? Like him or not based upon his personality. You can't knock the guy's talent. Now, at this point, though, Chad, the Packers are sucking a little bit of wind. I just want to update our poll question real quick. At the Sports Carney on Twitter. It's also up on our group Facebook page if you're part of the Sports Carnival group. But I'll give you the Twitter results. When asked this question, the Packers now 3-5 after that loss to Buffalo. Can they make the postseason? 47.1% say no way. 29.4% say they are hopeful, Chad, but doubtful. And only 23.5%, which is up a tick from earlier, to say that, yes, the Packers are going to make the postseason.
Well, before their, I think, bye week in week 14, they still have to play, of course, Detroit next. I think they play the Titans. They got to play the Cowboys. I was thinking the Titans might be a game that they could win. And then Derrick Henry last night puts up his 6th 200-yard game. He's tied with O.J. Simpson and I think Adrian Peterson. He's having an amazing year. I don't know if that's an automatic win. I don't know if the Detroit's an automatic win. I think the Cowboys is a loss. I mean, they do have the Bears coming up between now and then as well. That may be a win. I don't know. I mean, at this point, like games that you looked at on the schedule and went, okay, there's a win, there's a win, there's a win. I don't know if you can say that now. I think every single game, you got to take it game by game, not to be cliche, but you literally do.
You really, really have to. And if you're the Green Bay Packers right now, and again, I realize that as Packer fans, we don't want to believe at any particular moment in time until it's actually statistically, mathematically impossible. We don't want to believe that the season is actually over, because that's just not a thing the Packers have really had to contemplate many times since the early 1990s with Brett Favre. So we're talking about 30 years of sustained excellence, if you will. I know a lot of younger Packer fans have grown up their entire lives. As a matter of fact, guys and gals, one of your favorite former guests of ours on my show here in La Crosse, Hunter Bumgart, who used to live here in La Crosse, now is in Milwaukee, works for iHeartRadio, Chad. Hunter's going to join us on Wednesday, and we'll get Hunter's thoughts on the Packers and where they're at. He covers this team on a game-in, game-out basis. I just don't think that Packer fans want to believe that it's over. Listen, at this particular moment in time, I don't see anything special about this team. I just don't. There's nothing that pops to me that says, oh boy, if they can just clean up this and this particular piece of special is going to really drive and propel the team. I just don't see it. At the same time, could things turn around? Absolutely. Somebody for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, could break his leg walking out of his car today. You don't know. He could slip and fall. We don't know what can happen, but it sure doesn't feel like at this particular moment in time, this Packers team is poised to do anything special. Now, I know we don't have a ton of time left in the program, Chad, but I do want to make a bit of a transition to some team that Wisconsin sports fans can be very proud of, and that is the Milwaukee Bucks. We've obviously got the UW Eagles, and we'll talk to Matt Janis tomorrow. UW with a big win on Saturday, 38-35 over Oshkosh. But the Wisconsin sports fans, if you will, Chad, do have the Milwaukee Bucks to really be able to lean on right now. The Bucks over the weekend beat the Knicks on Friday, beat the Hawks on Saturday, 123-115. They're 5-0, the last undefeated team in the NBA. And look at this stat we put up about Giannis, Chad. We were talking about Giannis yesterday. Antetokounmpo has scored 151 points over his last 4 games, which represents the highest output he has had in any 4-game stretch of his career. It seems counterintuitive to talk about a 2-time MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and NBA champion as an ascending player. But, Chad, I watched this guy this year, and everything he does is better than what he did last year. Everything is better than what he's playing. Better defense. He's passing better. His dribbling's better. His shooting's better. Everything that Giannis is doing is better, and he's grown comfortable in his own skin. When he dunked over whoever it was, Mr. Unfortunate from Atlanta the other night, and looked over at the bench and was just laughing. I mean, he was just laughing because he's like, say what the fuck you want about Aaron Rodgers. He's like, I own everybody, not just Chicago. I own everybody.
I would say between him, Luka, and Ja Morant, they're probably in the lead, right? I know it's early. Lead for MVP. Steph Curry, unfortunately, he's had a couple of, he's been playing really well, but their team's not doing so good. I mean, I think the Greek Freak could probably haul in his 3rd MVP this season if he continues on this trajectory.
Well, if the Bucks keep winning, that's the thing, right? Like Luka's scored more points to start an NBA season than anybody except for Michael Jordan. Okay, so Luka's doing great, but Luka's Mavericks are going to lose a lot of regular season games. You can already see that coming. If this Milwaukee Bucks team does what it looks like they're poised to do now, again, we're still without Chris Middleton, Joe Ingles, and Pat Connaughton, 3 guys that are going to be in the 8 to 9 man rotation. If this Bucks is poised to win 60 to 65 games, which it looks like they could absolutely do, and Giannis continues on this streak, there will be no way to keep him away from his 3rd MVP. There will be no way. It just won't be. Categorically impossible.
Yes.
Okay.
Categorically impossible.
Well, I guess we're running out of time. I'm super glad to have everybody aboard this morning for the Sports Carnival. Chad, any big Halloween plans for tonight? You going to go out and trick or treat?
No, but we are having a nacho bar at work. So that's where my life is right now. Yeah, that's the excitement in my life. Nacho bar at work.
Oh, man, I tell you what I'm going to do tonight. Bingo at the recovery room with adults. With adult trick-or-treating, little bottles of booze. Yeah. We're also going to find out tonight, Chad, in earnest, exactly how we're going to be giving away this 43-inch flat-screen TV. I have a feeling it's going to be Wednesdays at the recovery room, plus subscribing to the YouTube channel, but we'll get exact details as soon as we can. about that particular giveaway. So stay tuned. Coming up this week, more ways to win, more ways to have fun. Thanks to Joe Daguanno and thanks to all our incredible sponsors. Chad, have a fun day with that nacho bar, buddy, and I'll talk to you bright and early mañana.
Thank you. See you guys later. Hashtag dead ball bitching.